The Jordan Brown case started on a school day morning. Jordan's stepsister Janessa woke him up for school. She was Jordan's stepsister because when Jordan was very young his mother died, meaning that when his father married Kenzie, her two daughters Janessa and Avalyn became Jordan's stepsisters. Janessa was 11, just like Jordan was at the time, and Avalyn was only 4. Because of her age, she didn't go to school at that time, and since she was so young at the time, I won't really mention her when I'm talking about this story because she isn't necessarily important. After Jordan woke up, he went to his mother's Kenzie's room. He went there and was apparently seen holding a gun, but we'll get into this later. And then he walked back to go on the sofa with Janessa. They waited on the sofa for the school bus to come for a while, until Kenzie told them that they should go. Janessa walked out first and waited in the garden, and when Kenzie went into her bedroom to go back to sleep, Jordan went with her and shot her, and Janessa claims that it was at this moment that she heard a gunshot from inside. And then he left the house and went to school with Janessa. It's also important to note that there was a black car right outside their garden. Now you may notice a few holes in this story and things which don't really make sense. For example, if Janessa really did hear the gunshot, why didn't she go around to check if everything was okay? And why would have Janessa waited so long for Jordan in the garden? Why wasn't she suspicious of where he was? And to be honest, I have nothing to cover up these plot holes. And to be honest, I don't even think that this is how the story actually happened. But the reason why I told this story is because this is the story that the police believed, or maybe even just made up. So to figure out how we do think this actually happened, we should probably look at the evidence that was given to go to this conclusion. So to start out very simply, we know that Kenzie was shot with a shotgun because there were 26 bullet holes inside her head, and it's very fair to assume that it was one of the family members who killed her since there was a shotgun in their house. It's also important to know that Janessa and Jordan were both interviewed twice. In the first interview, Jordan basically just told everything I just said, only minus all the things with him holding a gun and shooting his mother, and also excluding the black car. And what's also quite surprising is that Janessa gave the exact same story as Jordan did, but then things changed a lot when they were interviewed for a second time. Jordan's case didn't actually change very much. The only difference between Jordan's case this time is that he explained that there was a black car outside of his garden, but it's Janessa's story which really changed a lot this time. There were only really 2 differences when she was interviewed for a second time, but these 2 differences are quite vital. The first one being that she saw Jordan with a gun, and the second one being that when she was outside she heard a gunshot, and this is what they used for their final piece of evidence. If you're wondering why the father wasn't a suspect, it's because he left to go to work very early in the morning before the incident took place, and by the time that Jordan and Janessa were awake to see Kenzie alive, he had already left. And again, Avalyn was too young to be a suspect. The police claimed that Jordan did this because of jealousy, because when he shot Kenzie, she was pregnant, and maybe he just wanted all of the attention and didn't want a younger sister. And even if you do believe that Jordan shot Kenzie, that is very unlikely. People are way more complex than this story says, and if he really did kill his mother, there was much more reasoning than just jealousy. That seems like a very cliched answer to give, and basically an excuse. Jordan's father really believed that his son didn't kill his wife, and he actually thought it was Adam. Adam was Kenzie's ex-boyfriend and he was extremely violent. And since Jordan said that there was a black car outside of his house, his father came to the conclusion that that car could have been Adam's since he also drives a black car. But since Adam lives 2 miles away, I think that's kind of a stretch. So what do I think? Well, I believe that Kenzie took her own life. The only thing anyone can really say against my argument is that you think it's too much of a coincidence that Janessa heard the gunshot just when Jordan was inside alone with Kenzie and a 4-year-old girl who was helpless. And my argument against you is that I just don't believe that she did hear a gunshot. Remember again, she only mentioned that in the second interview, and that seems like a very vital thing she should have mentioned in the first interview. Now, I don't know why Kenzie would take her own life, but I don't don't have to. We have just as much information about why she would do that as we have information about why Jordan Brown would kill her. I think that the possibility of Jordan shooting Kenzie is just as much of a possibility as Kenzie shooting herself. And if you think it's a dumb argument because I'm not siding with the professional police, keep in mind that after 10 years of imprisonment, Jordan was freed because of lack of evidence, meaning that they believe that he killed her probably just as much as I do.